Good morning, everyone. My name is Lee Perry. I would like to welcome you this week to another episode of The Pirate Therapist. I am the Pirate Therapist. I am your host, and I am here to talk to you today about the power and the healing capabilities of wonder. There's something very deeply impactful about a sense of wonder. The moment when you stop for a second and the world feels bigger than your worries. Maybe it's the way the sunlight catches the trees, or maybe it's when you're sitting up at night without any light pollution and you just happen to see the majesty of a sky full of stars. Maybe it's just a child who looks at the world for the first time, looking around them and just wondering at how big it is. And when the sky is really blue, that feeling, that spark of awe and curiosity, it isn't just poetic. It's kind of a medicine for the mind. Today, we're going to talk about the power of wonder, how curiosity, awe, and open mindedness can help quiet anxiety, lift depression, and reconnect us to the beauty of being alive. What is wonder? It's more than surprise. It's what happens when we encounter something that stirs our soul, something larger than ourselves, something that stops us in our tracks and makes us sit up and take notice. It's the feeling you get staring at the stars. It's the feeling you get when a song just happens to hit you profoundly, when it just makes you stop in your tracks and listen. It's standing in front of a mountain or hearing a child laugh or realizing that there's beauty in life. Psychologists describe wonder as self transcendent emotion. That means it gently pulls our focus away from our problems and reminds us that we are part of something bigger, something much larger. And when that happens, our heart rate slows, our stress hormones drop, and our sense of time expands. It's the mind's way of saying, hold on, wait a second, this here is worth noticing. Pay attention. But before we dive into how wonder helps heal the mind, let's take a step back and really talk about what wonder is. We use the word a lot. I wonder what's for dinner. That's wonderful. But in its purest sense, wonder is a feeling of deep awe mixed with curiosity. It's what happens when someone catches us off guard in the best possible way. When our mind pauses, our breath slows, and we can't help but say, wow. It's not just about seeing something beautiful, it's about feeling connected to something larger than ourselves. Think about a time when you were, maybe it was standing under a sky full of stars that made you feel small in the best possible way. This happened to me once. I was up in Idaho. We were way away from a city and there was no real light pollution. And my wife and I were able to see a meteor storm in a sky full of stars. The sky was just beautiful and black. And we watched this meteor storm that went on for 10, 15 minutes. It just kept going. And we just kept seeing all of these shooting stars. It was amazing. And I've never seen anything like that before or since. So it could be something simpler, could be something like the smell of rain on a dry ground. You know, the way the rain smells after you haven't had rain for a long time, everything smells fresh. Maybe it's the way the sunlight just hits you in the morning. Anyway, that pause, that shift where the world feels bigger and deeper and more meaningful, that is wonder. It's a bridge between your inner world and the vastness of the world outside of you. Psychologists describe this transcendent emotion. It's something that just pulls us out of our rut, perhaps. It's when we get kind of tunnel visioned in our thinking and we start seeing things and we see them in a oftentimes in a negative way. And this is something that happens to us that just kind of goes, woo, hang on, pay attention. And it can be a very positive way of pulling us out of that rut. For just a moment, it stops being about you. It's about everything. It can be incredibly healing, especially when life has felt heavy and you feel small. Depression and anxiety tend to shrink our world. It makes us focus inward, looping fear and regret, and we start playing the game of what if. But wonder cracks that small world open. It stretches your perspective outward. It reconnects you to possibility. In that shift, even for a few seconds, something changes inside of you. Your breathing steadies, your muscles relax. Your brain, which may have been racing, suddenly quiets down, and we just kind of stop for a second. Like, there's something pretty cool going on right now. There's something pretty amazing. What's beautiful about wonder is that it doesn't demand anything of us. You don't have to earn it, you don't have to understand it or explain it. You just have to notice it. In fact, wonder often shows up most easily when we stop trying to control everything, when we slow down, when we let go, when we allow ourselves to be surprised. That's why children experience so much wonder. They haven't built up the walls and tell themselves, I've seen it all. They haven't done that yet. Every sound, every sight, every new discovery is a doorway into amazement. But as adults, we get so busy managing, planning, surviving that we forget to look up. We forget that the world still holds surprises. We lose touch with a part of ourselves that once believed that everything was worth exploring. So, what is wonder? Really? It's a way of seeing. It's a mindset that whispers there's still more to discover. It's both humbling and empowering at the same time. Humbling because it reminds us that we're very small in this vast universe, and empowering because it reminds us that we are part of this vastness and there is nobody like us. We are unique in the entire universe that is ours. There is nothing exactly like us. We are unique and we have a part to play. When you allow yourself to feel wonder, you momentarily step outside the noise of your thoughts and step into something timeless, something infinite. You realize that even in your hardest moments, the world hasn't stopped being beautiful. And sometimes that realization alone can be enough to reignite hope. That's why wonder matters, because it reconnects us with life itself. It's the spark that says, keep looking, keep feeling, keep believing, and something extraordinary can still happen. And maybe that's where the healing begins. Now, here's something fascinating. Scientists have found that experiences of awe and curiosity can actually affect the chemistry of our brains. When we feel wonder, the brain releases dopamine, the same chemical linked to joy, learning, and motivation. At the same time, areas of the brain connected to self criticism and rumination quiet down. In other words, wonder helps us get out of our own heads. One study found that people who regularly experience awe, even small everyday moments of it, report lower levels of stress, less inflammation, and stronger sense of connection to the people around them. Wonder doesn't just make us feel better, it helps us heal. It reawakens the parts of the brain that depression and anxiety often numb. And the best part, you don't need a mountaintop or a miracle to find it. Well, now that we've talked about what wonder feels like, let's look at what's actually happening inside of our brains as we experience it. Here's the amazing part: wonder isn't a poetic or spiritual feeling, not just those. It's also a biological response. Your body reacts to wonder the same as it might to love, gratitude, or meditation. And those reactions can literally change the way you think, feel, and heal. When you experience awe or deep curiosity, your brain releases a cocktail of feel good chemicals: dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, sometimes even endorphins. Let's start with dopamine. We often call this the motivation or the reward chemical. It's what helps you feel joy, focus, and excitement. Depression, on the other hand, often suppresses dopamine production. That's why so many people who are struggling say things like, I just don't feel anything anymore. It's not laziness or weakness, it's chemistry. But here's the good news: even brief moments of wonder, like standing under a colorful sunset or hearing a powerful music, a song, or learning something new that stirs your curiosity, can reignite a dopamine release. Wonder wakes up your brain's reward system and reminds it, hey, there's still beauty here, there's still joy, there are still reasons to feel alive. Next, wonder also engages the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for higher thought, reflection, empathy, perspective. When you're feeling awe, this part of the brain becomes more active. While the default mode network, which fuels self critical and repetitive thoughts, it calms down, it quiets a little bit. So that's why in moments of awe, your problems seem smaller, not because they've disappeared, but because your mind stops looping on those issues. It stops focusing entirely on that for a little while. Your sense of self, the little voice that says me, mine, my pain, it takes a step back and it allows peace to step in. It's kind of a cognitive reset, a moment when your brain, even for a few seconds, breaks free from the mental clutter and experiences stillness. The effects of wonder don't stop in your brain, though. Your whole body responds. When you feel awe, your heart rate often slows, your breathing deepens, and your vagus nerve, which helps regulate calm, activates. Your body literally shifts from fight or flight to rest and restore. That's huge for people struggling with stress and anxiety and depression because it means wonder helps reset your nervous system in real time. It's your body's way of saying, you're safe right now. You can breathe. The science backs this up. Studies have shown that people who experience awe, even for a few times a week, have lower levels of inflammation, lower cortisol, that's the stress hormone, and a stronger sense of emotional resilience. One experiment done out of UC Berkeley asked its participants to take a 15-minute walk just once a week where they intentionally looked for beauty or curiosity in their surroundings. After only 8 weeks, those people reported less loneliness, more joy, and a greater overall satisfaction with life, all simply from choosing to look at the world with wonder. There's also something deeply social about wonder. When we experience awe together, like watching a concert, a thunderstorm, or a fireworks display, our brains release oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. It's the same chemical that helps mothers bond with newborns and friends feel close after deep conversations. Oxytocin reminds us that we're not separate. We're part of something larger and shared. That's why the collective wonder, seeing a crowd gasp together or laugh in unison or fall silent during a breathtaking moment, it's why it feels so powerful. It's our biology reconnecting us to each other. When you're struggling with depression and loneliness, that kind of connection can be life giving. It says you're still part of the world. You're still connected. You still belong. There's one more fascinating piece of science about wonder. It changes your sense of time. In a state of awe, people often report that time feels like it slows down. Minutes stretch into moments, moments stretch into memories, and that's because your brain becomes more present. And presence is healing. When you're truly present, when you're fully engaged in what is right in front of you, your brain stops predicting, worrying, and replaying the past. That mental reset gives you a space to breathe again, to feel again. It's like a deep sigh for your soul. When you think about it, wonder isn't just a feeling, it's a built in recovery system. It resets your chemistry, rebalances your nervous system, and reopens your heart. It doesn't take much. A sunrise, a song, a moment of genuine curiosity. You remind your body how to feel calm again. to remind your mind that it is still capable of seeing and finding joy. Wonder doesn't erase pain, but it gives it context. It whispers there's still beautiful things in this world. The universe is big and I'm part of it, and there is nothing like me in it except me. You can find wonder in the smallest places if you look slowly enough. Try this. Next time you're outside, stop for 30 seconds and listen. Notice how the wind moves the leaves. Notice how the colors you can see in the space of a single tree. That's wonder. It's attention wrapped in gratitude. Or look for something familiar as if you're seeing it for the first time. Look at your partner's face, the rhythm of the rain on your window, even your own hands, and all they've done to carry you throughout your life. Now that we understand what wonder is and how it works inside of us, the next question is, how do we find it again? Because if you've been through loss, depression, burnout, wonder can feel like it's disappeared. We've all had those things. The world looks gray. It feels ordinary. You forget what it's like to feel amazed. But the truth is, wonder never leaves us. We just forget to look for it. The good news is, it doesn't take grand moments to find it again. You don't have to hike a mountain or travel the world. Wonder is everywhere. It's hiding in plain sight. You just have to slow down long enough to notice it. You can start by training your attention. Choose to see things as if for the very first time. Try this simple practice. Just step outside for 30 seconds and really look. Notice how many shades of green are in the trees and the grass. Listen to the rhythm of the wind, the sound of traffic, not as noise, but as a song you've never heard before. Watch the way the light moves across the ground, through the trees, through the clouds, how it changes, how it dances. That moment when you stop analyzing and start noticing, that is wonder waking up. Wonder often hides in the ordinary. It could be the steam coming from your morning drink. It could be the laughter of a stranger, the shape of clouds moving like slow dancers across the sky, the way the rain smells, the way the leaves change colors in the fall. When you learn to notice these small things, life begins to feel bigger again. Children are natural experts at wonder. They don't need a reason to be amazed, they just are. They'll stare at a ladybug for 5 minutes. They'll marvel at bubbles like they're magic. They'll ask 100 questions about the moon. It's this kind of curiosity, this open, playful, unfiltered, this kind of curiosity. We lose this often as adults. We get so focused on efficiency, on goals and responsibilities that we forget to let our minds wonder. When we make space for curiosity again, we give ourselves permission to be alive. So the next time you catch yourself saying, I don't have time for that, pause and ask instead, what would it look like if I were to be curious and take a moment and just exist in this moment, to just pay attention to the world around me just for a minute? Curiosity and wonder are two sides of the same coin. Curiosity asks, how does this work? Wonder whispers, isn't this amazing that it does work? If there's one place where wonder is always waiting, it's in nature. There's something almost sacred about being outside, something that speaks to the deep part of us that remembers what it means to be human. The quiet in the forest, the smell of rain, the vastness of a night sky full of stars. Time in nature boosts mood, lowers anxiety, and restores focus. But more than that, nature invites awe. Every leaf, every ripple of water, every bird call is a living reminder that life is endlessly creative, resilient, and beautiful. You don't have to go far. Your backyard, a park bench, even standing barefoot in the grass for a minute can shift your whole perspective. Next time you go for a walk, don't take your headphones. Look at the world as if you're a visitor from another planet, like you've never seen any of this before. Notice the patterns, the sounds, the movements of life all around you. The simple act of paying attention can change your entire day. It can shift you from that rut you're stuck thinking in to being more present and paying more attention to the world around you. It allows that wonder, that sense of awe to be a part. Wonder also lives in the people, in the faces, in the voices, in the stories that fill our lives. Every person you meet is a walking universe, full of memories, dreams, and emotions that you'll never fully know. And yet, here they are, sharing the same air, the same moment in time, and they're sharing it with you. When you take a second to see someone, not just glance, but really see them, you notice the light in their eyes, or the kindness in their tone, or the quiet strength they carry. That's wonder, too. Connection, humanity. Try asking someone a question you've never asked before. Something like, what's something that's changed the way you see the world? People will surprise you. And in those stories, you will find pieces of awe that you didn't know you needed. The beauty of wonder is that it's not an event, it's a practice. You can invite it in small, intentional ways. Like the one beautiful thing. Every day, look for one thing that amazes you. Write it down. Journal that thing. Keep a record of it. It can be the color of the sky. It can be a song lyric, the smell of dinner. Over time, this retrains our brain to look for these things. Practice giving yourself a 10-second pause. When you catch yourself rushing or scrolling, stop. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what in this moment is beautiful? It's amazing how often that answer will appear. Once a day, replace judgment with curiosity. Instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Ask, what can I learn from this? That shift transforms frustration into openness, and openness invites wonder. Try exercising your gratitude. Gratitude and wonder often walk hand in hand. When you feel thankful for something, even small, stay with it for 10 extra seconds. Let that feeling sink in. That's how wonder roots itself. Wonder is not just about seeing beauty, it's about feeling alive again. It's about remembering that even in the middle of pain and uncertainty, there are still moments of awe that are waiting just for you. When you practice seeing the world with fresh eyes, you rediscover something extraordinary. That joy and healing that often begin not with answers, but with awareness. Every sunrise, every act of kindness, every breath, they're quiet invitations to notice that the world is still good. And the more you notice, the more your heart remembers how you feel. Curiosity brings us back to presence, and presence brings us peace. When we lose our sense of wonder, we can start to feel small, like we're trapped inside of our own thoughts. But wonder cracks that shell open. It reminds us that we are part of something shared, a bigger story that's unfolding all around us. Think about how a concert crowd swells with energy, or how people gasp together at the fireworks. That collective awe, it's healing. Studies have shown that shared experiences of wonder strengthen empathy and belonging. When we feel awe, we stop comparing, competing, and isolating. We simply exist together. And maybe that's what healing really is, remembering that we are connected, not alone. There is something very quiet but powerful about how wonder doesn't just change us, it changes the space between us. You've probably felt it before. Maybe a concert crowd when the song swells and everyone sings along, hundreds or thousands of voices in one heartbeat. Or when you watch fireworks and you hear Everybody react to the fireworks the same way at the same time, people you don't even know. Or even if you're sitting in a movie theater and the story moves everyone to silence at the same moment, that is shared wonder. It's that moment when awe links us together. When our individual experiences dissolve for a few seconds, we become part of something larger than ourselves. And that connection, that sense of belonging, it can be profoundly healing. Scientists have actually studied this. When people experience awe and wonder together, their brains release oxytocin, the same hormone that fosters trust and empathy and bonding, sometimes called a love hormone, but it's really just a connection chemical. It reminds us that we're part of a community, that we're seen, that we're heard, and that we are valued. In fact, research shows that even short experiences of shared wonder, like watching a sunset with someone, or singing in a choir, or attending a live performance, makes people more generous, more cooperative, and more likely to help others. It's as if awe softens the edges of the self. Our ego steps aside, and what's left is quiet understanding. We're in this together. And that's the message the world needs, especially right now. One of the hardest things about depression, grief, and anxiety is that it makes us feel alone. Even when we're surrounded by people, you might feel like you're on the outside looking in and the world is moving on and you've somehow fallen still. But wonder bridges that gap, says you're still part of this. A sunrise doesn't care about your income or your mistakes. The ocean doesn't ask for your credentials before it lets you stand in awe of it. And when we share that feeling with someone, when we both stop and say, wow, we meet each other on common ground. And in that moment, there's no you and me, there's us. The beauty is you don't have to, you don't need a concert or a mountaintop to experience shared awe. It can happen in simple, everyday ways. When you see something that amazes you, a sunset or a funny cloud or a touching video, don't just scroll past it, share it with someone and say, hey, check this out. The simple act of noticing together builds connection. When someone tells you a story, listen like it's the most important thing in the world, because for them, in that moment, it is. Listening is one of the purest forms of wonder. Paint, sing, build, volunteer, play music. Creation invites awe. It turns I into we. Do this with others. Make it a we. Go for a walk. Sit under the stars. Watch the sunrise. Silence shared in awe can speak louder than the words ever could. Wonder also has a way of softening conflict. When you experience awe, your sense of perspective widens. Suddenly, the argument that felt so big becomes smaller. The distance between you and someone else doesn't seem so permanent. Why? Because awe shifts your focus from how am I different from you to what do we share? And what we share as humans is extraordinary. We all laugh, we all cry, we all dream, we all hope. We're trying in our own way to make sense of this strange and beautiful world. Wonder helps us remember that. It helps us see each other not as opponents or strangers, but as fellow travelers and staring up at the same stars, asking the same questions. And in that realization, connection and healing begins. When we talk about mental health, we often talk about a need to feel seen, to be heard, to know that we matter, that someone would notice if we weren't there. Wonder does that in its own quiet way. It says you are part of something vast and meaningful. You are a piece of this living, breathing masterpiece. Sometimes that's enough to remind us that we just need to keep going. It's not always about fixing everything. Sometimes it's about feeling connected again, feeling alive in the presence of something bigger than our pain. So maybe wonder isn't just a nice feeling. Maybe it's a kind of psychological medicine. a medicine that heals isolation with connection, softens fear with curiosity. It reminds us that we're all part of one incredible, interconnected story. And that story, the story of being human, is worth being amazed by. You've all been through a hard season: grief, depression, burnout, stress. Wonder can feel distant, like color has drained from your world, but you can invite it back through small acts of openness. Try something small, even a new route home. Go home a different way than you normally do just to experience something different. Look up a new recipe. Try that for dinner. Ask a question, something you've never asked before. Novelty triggers curiosity. Ask what if instead of why bother. Replace hopelessness with gentle curiosity. What went right today? What was I impressed by? Spend time in nature. The natural world is a masterclass in wonder. Even 5 minutes outside helps. I recommend you do that every day. Leave the house for at least a half an hour. In today's world where so many people work from home, get out of the house for at least a half an hour and just go experience the world. Get some fresh air, get some sunshine, get some weather. It's not always going to be sunshine, but it might be rain, it might be snow. Hopefully, not this early in the year, but could be. Create something, draw, write, build, play. Creativity reawakens awe by reminding you that you can make beauty too. Look for the tiny miracles, the way your breath steadies when you listen to music, the warmth of the sunlight on your face, the fact that your heart keeps beating even when you've forgotten to be grateful for that. Sometimes life just loses its color. You wake up, you go through the motions, check off the boxes, but everything feels muted, like you're living behind glass. You can't remember what joy feels like, but you can't reach it. You knew it was there. You can't find it. It's like a spark that went out. You're not sure how to light it again. If that sounds familiar, please know you're not broken. You're human, and you're not alone. That sense of dullness, of emotional flatness, is something many people experience, especially during or after stress, loss, or depression. It's the mind's way of protecting itself. When life hurts, sometimes your brain turns down the volume to keep you safe. But while that numbness might protect you from pain, it can also block out the beauty, the surprise, and the wonder of just being alive. The good news is you can find that wonder again. It doesn't happen all at once, but it can return. Often it starts with something very small. When you've been numb for a while, wonder can feel far away. So start with something simple, like taking the time and the effort to notice. Notice one thing today that you usually overlook. It can be the texture of the air after rain, the way the sunlight hits you in the morning on your way to work, the rhythm of your breathing, or the quiet hum of life happening all around you, the birds, the insects, the passing cars, the sound of your own heartbeat, the sound of the ticking of a clock. These sounds may be small, but noticing is the first spark of wonder. It's saying, I'm here. I see. I'm awake again. Over time, those small moments begin to reconnect you with the beauty of being alive. It's okay to let yourself be surprised. Wonder often comes when we least expect it. But when life feels dull, we stop looking for surprises. We fall into predictability. We fall into that rut. So try this. Do something this week that alters your routine. You have to go to work. Most of us do every day, but you don't have to go to work the same route. We usually have options there. It might take a little longer, but so what? Maybe take a little longer getting home or going to work. Just give yourself time and enjoy the difference. Pay attention to those things. Try a new recipe, something that sounds delicious, but you've never tried before. Visit a place you've never been. Maybe go to a park you've never been to. Pick up something you used to love: music, drawing, reading. How many people love to read, but they've kind of lost that habit? They get so busy at work, they forget that they enjoy reading and they don't take the time anymore. Go pick up a book. Anything that once made you feel curious, pick that up. Try that again. You don't need to feel joy right now. Just show up. Sometimes wonder hides in the act of showing up before we feel ready, and it won't be long before we feel joy. Often it's the small surprises that reawaken our sense of curiosity. Curiosity is the door that wonder walks through. Give yourself permission to feel again. When you've been carrying emotional pain, part of you might resist the feeling, even good things. Joy can feel foreign or unsafe because your heart remembers how it hurt before. But healing happens when you gently let yourself feel again, little by little. So if you feel a flicker of emotion, a tear, a smile, a sigh, let it come. That's life returning. That's the door of wonder cracking open. There's no rush, no pressure. You don't have to chase happiness. Just make space for feeling. Because wonder isn't about being endlessly cheerful. It's about being fully alive, present, open, and real. When life feels flat, our thoughts often circle around why. Why do I feel like this? Why can't I be happy? Why does nothing excite me anymore? But wonder lives in a different question. What if? What if things are still beautiful? What if they're just waiting for me? What if things can change? What if I tried one small thing today and it mattered? That shift from why to what if opens space for possibility, and that possibility is the seed of hope. You don't just need to have answers. You need to keep asking questions that lead you towards the light. Sometimes we can't find wonder alone, and that's okay. Remember, wonder has connectedness with it. Reach out to someone who helps you see the world differently. Find out their perspective on things. That can be a doorway to wonder. Can be a friend, a mentor, even a child who finds magic in everything. Let their curiosity remind you of your own. Go to places that awe naturally happens. Art, museums, parks, concerts, festivals, faith gatherings. Be around people who are moved by life, because wonder, it's contagious. And remember, being with others doesn't erase your pain, but it helps you carry it differently, connectedly, together. Reawakening wonder isn't about snapping your fingers and feeling joy overnight. It's more like watching a sunrise. At first, the sky is gray, then slowly color seeps in. You might not even notice it's happening until one day you realize you can feel again. You can laugh again. You can be moved again. And maybe the world didn't change. Maybe you did. You start noticing again. You start allowing again. You start to wonder again. And in doing that, you started to live again. Here's the thing about wonder: it doesn't erase pain. It just reminds us that pain is not the whole story. Wonder says life can hurt, but it can also amaze you. It's the spark that keeps you curious enough to keep living and learning and reaching for joy. When we wonder, we open ourselves to surprise, and surprise is the birthplace of healing. So maybe the next time you catch yourself going through the motions, pause and ask, what around me deserves my attention right now? What beauty have I been too tired to notice? Because wonder isn't something that you find far away. It's something that finds you when you look closer. If there's one thing I've learned about wonder, it's that it has the power to heal quietly, slowly, but profoundly. We often think of healing as something that happens only in hospitals or in therapy rooms, but some of the most powerful healing begins in the heart, in the space between pain and possibility. And that's exactly where wonder lives. When we're hurting, it's easy to believe that healing means making the pain go away. But healing at its deepest level is about growing around the pain, finding a larger space inside of yourself where both your wounds and your wonder can coexist. Wonder helps us do that. It doesn't erase grief or depression. It doesn't deny that life can be hard or unfair. What it does is gently remind us that there is more, that beyond what hurts, there is still beauty, there is still mystery, there is still something worth staying for. It's that moment you step outside after a difficult day and see the sky streaked with color. Even if your heart still aches, you whisper, "That's beautiful." And that's healing. It's not the absence of pain, but the return of being present. Wonder brings us back to presence. Science tells us that wonder changes the way the brain works. When you experience awe, whether from nature, art, music, or human kindness, the part of the brain that focuses on yourself and your problems quiets down. For a few seconds, the world opens up again. You stop looping through your fears and regrets and your what ifs, and you just are. And that stillness is a form of medicine. In that space, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin. Your heart rate slows, your stress hormones drop, your mind expands. And even if it's for a brief moment, you remember what peace feels like. The more we experience those moments, the more they begin to rewire the brain. Wonder, practiced regularly, builds resilience. If the mind It helps the mind remember how to find beauty even when there's a lot of pain surrounding us. One of the most healing things about wonder is that it doesn't ask anything of us. It doesn't say be better. It doesn't say get over it. It just says pay attention. Wonder invites us to stop grasping for control, to let go, even for a moment, and just trust that we are part of something bigger. Being part of that something bigger is very powerful because so often our pain grows heavier the more we try to fix it, the more we try to understand it, the more we try and control it. It just gets heavier. But when we let ourselves feel wonder, that quiet amazement at life's vastness, our suffering shifts. We realize we don't have to carry everything alone. Healing begins in the moment that we remember that life is larger than our pain. Depression and trauma can shrink the world until all you see is darkness, but wonder cracks open the door to light. It whispers, "Look closer. There's still something here." That tiny spark of curiosity, that moment where you stop and say, "I hadn't noticed that before." That is hope being reborn. It may be fragile, small, but it's alive. And hope doesn't need to roar to make a difference. Sometimes it just whispers, "Keep going. There's more to see. Just wait. Life is beautiful." When you allow yourself to feel wonder, even for a second, you're practicing hope. You're saying, "I believe that there is still beauty here somewhere. Let's go find it." That belief can become a lifeline when everything else feels lost. There's a sacred kind of healing that happens when you feel connected to something beyond yourself, whether you call it nature or art or love or spirit or simply just life. Wonder is how we touch that mystery. It reminds us that we are not all isolated souls floating in the darkness. We're part of a vast, interconnected story. Every tree, every star, every heartbeat belongs to that story, and so do you. Even in your pain, even in your doubt, you are still part of something beautiful and alive. You are an important thread in this immense tapestry. You are part of the joy, part of the loss and the love, and it's all woven together. We are all interconnected in this vast story of our universe. Nobody can do what you can, not the same way. You are unique. You are important to this tapestry. That awareness of belonging to something infinite can bring more healing than any words ever could. Sometimes people are in pain and they're told to just be grateful. But real gratitude cannot be forced. It grows naturally from senses of wonder. When you experience awe, when you feel as small in the presence of something vast, gratitude rises quietly like a breath. You don't have to think it, you just feel it. Wonder says, even though life is imperfect, it's still miraculous. Even though I suffered, there's still light. That shift from demanding life makes sense to simply being amazed that it exists. That's where the deep healing takes root. Wonder is a gentle teacher. It doesn't rush or shout. It doesn't demand that you move faster or do better. It just sits beside you and it softly reminds you that there is still beauty, there is still meaning, and you're still important. That something is important about you, that there is something sacred in you and your part of this giant tapestry that is our universe. When everything else feels broken, wonder tells us you're still part of this story. When you feel numb, it nudges you. Look up. The stars are still shining. When you doubt your worth, it says you exist, and that is enough. That healing lesson of wonder, it doesn't fix us, it frees us. It opens our hearts to the mystery that we were never really lost. We just need to remember how to see it again. So maybe healing isn't about finding all the answers. Maybe it isn't about knowing everything. Maybe it's just about rediscovering the awe of simply being, of looking at the world around us, at our universe, realizing that we are an important piece of that. We may be imperfect, but we can always have that wonder. We can always have that sense of awe that we are an important piece of this giant tapestry. Maybe that's the secret. Healing doesn't always begin with answers, it begins with questions, with curiosity, and with wonder. I want to thank you all very much for joining me again this week as we discussed wonder and awe and what that can do for us. I know sometimes we struggle, and that's okay. This week, this topic, I had a specific person in mind. She is a friend of mine, and she is kind of struggling right now, it seems. So I hope she listens to this and it helps. So for this week, I want to thank you all for joining me. I am Lee Perry. I am the Pirate Therapist. I hope this episode has been helpful for you. If it has, I would like you to maybe share it with somebody else that you might believe could benefit from it, someone who might be able to use this. So thank you again for joining me. I look forward to talking to you again next week, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Don't forget to stop and enjoy the sky and look at the world around you. Reignite that sense of awe and wonder. For now, I want you all just remember, you matter. You are unique. And this tapestry of this universe would not be the same without you. You have a wonderful week. So until next week, have a wonderful day. Bye.